So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the intro music, Doc, and I'm going to mute you guys.
Perfect. So we'll actually start with music now.
Love it.
Time, so that'll be nice. And I don't think we have a guest today, right?
Nope.
Okay, so
Nope.
So my meeting with Heather was interesting yesterday. Oh, sorry.
You were live.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Green Room. We have part 2 today of legalization issues in medical marijuana and marijuana in general.
Well,
so
right. We got so busy last week, we never got around to Sarasota County.
No, which
and we will today.
We will today.
Absolutely.
We will.
Make sure I
yeah.
all posted in
it
here.
Has some issues in the county level and on the state level and on every level.
Well, on the national level, of course, as well. But just talk, listen, let's talk state, because last Thursday morning was a day after the Bertha Madras appearance, of course, up in Tallahassee.
Yeah, that was a wonderful
one. Of course, Carlos Guillermo Smith was masterful in using the letter from the doctors that which was somehow really became famous. It's now kind of known as the letter.
The letter.
The letter.
Well, because I think some of them didn't get the letter, and they were offended why didn't they get the letter.
The true story of it is that, I have certain contacts up in Tallahassee that I do like to utilize to make sure that they know what's going on within the doctor community and
they should. And again, even one of the representatives said, like, I don't remember who it was. Yep. Why don't they call the experts with the boots on the ground? And at least there was a letter. So thankfully, at least it has clout, because it's, doctors of value who actually have cannabis experience in treating patients were the ones that wrote it. So I thought that was very beneficial. And thanks to Carlos for getting that out.
Right. And then on Thursday, after the Green Room, so I haven't had a chance to report on this, the Board of Medicine met. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, everybody. The Board of Medicine is tasked with literally writing a practice standard for the quote-unquote smokable form of cannabis. Mm-hmm. So that's problem one. We advise them from the beginning, please don't call it smokable cannabis. Use whole flower cannabis, please, right? Mm-hmm. That will allow the doctors to appropriately advise patients about the safest way to use their cannabis, right? But no, they didn't listen, so they wrote it wrong. So now these very conservative Board of Medicine doctors are forced literally into formulating a practice standard for a form of medicine delivery that they absolutely can't advocate for. And listen, doctors in general are against smoking of anything, combustion of anything, inhalation, although there are asthma inhalers, of course, many other medicines delivered by inhalation. But the point is, the Board of Medicine doctors would have restricted the ability to order that route of delivery for patients until their own attorneys had to advise them that no, guys, you can't do, again, gals, you can't do that, okay? It's in the statute and the constitutional amendment that form is allowed.
That is allowed.
So we have actually stepped up, and that's actually what that letter was all about, was helping the Board of Medicine to formulate their practice standard for that route of administration, where the whole 10% thing. So listen, everybody. That's pretty funny. We do have a new microphone, though. Probably picked that up pretty good.
It did. Sorry, we're still all here in one piece.
My knee knocked something. But the point is, we are in a battle in Tallahassee for the 10% THC on flower cap. It's really important to know what that's all about.
Yeah, I think people need to understand that a lot, because I think people would protest it.
Well, what's all about, and this is the third year in a row that we've had to fight this battle. Last year it was actually only for the pediatric population.
Right, it was for kids. Now it's a 10% everywhere. And
it is, but the good news and the bad news is this: there's no bill that contains this 10% cap. But the people that know Tallahassee know how it works up there. When a bill is presented, they put amendments on top of bills.
Of course.
And how this has worked in the past is that because it's so onerous, basically what happens is when you cap your percentage of THC, it literally forces your patient to use twice as much.
And
right?
that's the thing. They're putting the burden on the patient where it's already expensive. You're just adding an additional expense because insurance doesn't cover it. And it's very unfair to the patients who need medicine. And again, shout out to Representative Escamami for bringing that point up that if it's a medicine, which it is, it should be treated as a medicine without having to buy a license at $75. Besides, now they want to cap it off. I'd like to see them try to cap off like the Coumadins and the other meds. That if somebody needs a higher dose, what are they going to do? It's a silly argument.
It is. And, you know, unfortunately, they continue to bring in quote unquote experts, you know, who really don't know about modern cannabis. And listen, you know, we treat cannabis here as a substance, like any other substance, can be utilized appropriately. And the abuse potential of cannabis is not zero. We understand that, but it's the appropriate education, right? That is what's important about all substances and safe use. And let's get to Sarasota County, you know, anyway. And what are they up to, Ruta? Because you're kind of the one that has the insights into how this county actually works. So,
well, Sarasota County, it follows a lot of the state and conservatism outside of downtown, perhaps Sarasota, which is a little bit more liberal, but they want to limit a lot to do with medical cannabis and cannabis in general. They want to actually start saying that they're not going to allow it. They want to go ahead of the curve is what they think they're doing.
They're going to be proactive
in this issue. Even if it's a federal mandate, they sort of think they're going to somehow have this magical protection against recreational cannabis. They think if they forbid it in the county that it will never be permissible. Unfortunately, that's not how it works, but they're proposing this.
Those are the subtleties of let's talk legalization part 2, and we can start all the way at the national, you know, level and what's going on and how that's actually going to affect us. And you know, Don, I didn't bring in the Delta 8 sample.
That's actually
they'll probably kick us off Facebook if I show it product wise. I know. So let's not do that.
YouTube, we can get away with it.
Yeah, for sure. But it's interesting what's legal now and what's not legal now. So let's take a look at it nationally. Listen, with the 2 senators from Georgia now making it a 50-50 with, you know, Vice President Harris breaking the tie. Hopefully the MORE Act that is well past the House already is going to get to the Senate and get support. The good news is what's going to happen there is hopefully that will start the descheduling process, allow research, and then I'm, you know, quite certain it's going to kick it and decriminalize, or however they want to label it, call it. We want expungements for past, you know, offenses. We need to correct a lot of racial and social injustice that's happened from cannabis. Of course, there's a tax involved with the MORE Act of 5% actually, which goes to correct some of those injustices at the national level, which actually is, you know, an argument for some people about it, you know, on the taxation side. But, you know, there's going to be taxes with legal adult use.
Of course.
And that's what we tell every one of our patients. In fact, to the extent of what we have
in fact, I was talking to a friend of mine, was in over the weekend from Massachusetts, and I was asking her how is the marijuana structured now because it's recreational in Massachusetts. And it is, there's a huge tax in Massachusetts on medical, non-medical, on recreational. And also the privileges of those who have the medical cards is much greater. They get better access, they get better product, they get better everything.
They should get job protections, and hospital access, all those things that we know are the value of a strong medical program. So the point is, at the federal level, we're very hopeful that there's going to be some changes important for us, especially you sitting in the business office. Banking, of course, things of that nature.
To those people who don't know, just so that you know, for cannabis related industries, we can't do banking. So we
in a conventional
So if you think you're going to go to Bank of America as a cannabis anything, you can't in the state of Florida or anywhere for that matter. I think in the United States, so we have issues with banking. There are banks in Florida that are like they're still federally insured, but they have some kind of, I don't know, it's not like a credit union, but there are
banks. We give a shout out to ours, you know, First Federal.
First Federal of Florida. Watch, they'll be closed down.
No doubt. But anyway, so federally things are going to change. But what I remind everybody is that that's going to start a process that's going to kick it back to the states. Yeah. Now, here in Florida, of course, conservative, Republican led state that it is right now, we have many things that we're still fighting for. One is that 10% THC cap that we discussed. The second thing is we're still waiting for the Supreme Court. Today is Thursday. They give out their rulings on Thursday. Mm-hmm. We're waiting to see if they're going to come out with the Florida-grown Joe Redner trying to break the vertical case, right? Which is huge, because if that happens and all of a sudden a bunch of new licenses are, set to be awarded, the legislature is going to have to pay attention to that. Right. And that'll make it for a really interesting session on the MMTC or provider side of things. And I think that'll take all focus away from the patient.
Well, I think for folks that don't know, and a lot of people in Florida don't know, like, it's basically the cannabis industry is you have to grow it all the way to, it's vertical, all the way through to selling. So it makes it not as competitive price wise, because there's not that many licenses given out, and it's extremely difficult to go from seed to sale. It's very difficult. So just so that some people understand, because I think not a lot of people know the system here in Florida.
States are different. So in some states, you can only go to one dispensary. They assign you a dispensary. Here in Florida, you can go to any of the dispensaries, but you have to know about them too, which is one of the advantages of our clinic of education, is that we make sure that everybody knows, about all of them. It was so interesting because at the meeting of last week, we find out things like, in general, the OMU was supposed to set up a seed to sale, either a MMJ freeway or some other type of seed to sale tracking system. It's never been done. So there's so many things throughout the system that have never been done. There's no dose cap limit, for example, nor do we want one.
But there was an argument from somebody on that. Did you hear it with, I think it was a physician on the physician call. I don't remember. There was somebody that was saying, well, he just briefly did the math, and he said the amount of milligrams or something that was actually allotted in a monthly order, a recommendation, he thought was like astronomically high. And I think somebody else was arguing, well, if you're taking a cancer patient or someone, they need higher doses. And so there was a lot of debate even on that.
There was, and there's always the outliers, so to speak, and it's interesting. But it was just so interesting to me that there continues to be things that just have never been implemented, right? And even some of the licenses still have not, been given out. Now we're almost at 500,000 people in Florida,
I know, it's
patient-wise, which automatically awards 4 more MMTC licenses. Wow. So it's going to be interesting. So that Supreme Court case is going to be critical. So here in Florida, right, we're going to have to wait and see what legalization actually means to us. My point being that I think we're still going to see a slow rollout of, if they can, avoid the Supreme Court breaking, a very regulated, fairly closed vertical system. That's how they wanted it. It does work for patients in a lot of ways, but we still need a home grow option. We need a home grow option for patients. More dispensaries, more competition, smaller boutique type of people coming in,
and access, because like I said, I think last week we even touched upon it, where a patient gets used to a certain product and there's not enough of it. And that's a problem, because if a patient is taking it as a medicine, it needs to be stocked, and it has to be enough that no patient should ever go without any med. And some of these patients get very upset over that. And the state has to look at that too. I mean, this is an issue. You got to open it up a little bit.
And there's still a ton of underserved areas in the state, to the extent
in the rural.
There's another bill at the state house level right now that I think opens up access to smaller communities by allowing the MMTCs to contract out to 10 other entities, right? None of those bills I expect to really move this year in Florida. I'd be surprised, but I'd be thrilled if they did. Our focus is on a couple of things. We need to continue telehealth, right, for our recertification patients, because listen, masks haven't gone away. Listen, I'm back to 100%, by the way. For sure.
I'm not even worried about it.
It's interesting when you get vaccinated, and you're still wearing a mask and being respectful of other people. I take personal pride in making sure that I'm still taking that extra level of protection, because there are still questions about who can spread and what the variants are.
Yeah,
and
we don't know. It's still a
You
lot of
don't.
unknowns.
You
There
don't.
are, but I think our clinic is doing an outstanding job in making sure.
And I'm grateful that we were able to get it.
So.
And I almost feel, you know, I'm not guilty, so to speak, but when I talk to patients about it, because I tend to ask patients, especially my elderly patients,
they got the
if they've been able to achieve the vaccine yet. And the good
but
news
it's
is
getting
more
better.
and more people are getting the answer,
They
especially
are.
one shot.
Yeah, they're one shot already. And
Yeah.
I think they have I want to say, I think they're just allowing, there's like 10,000 coming into Sarasota County in the next day or so. So they're actually
there was a call for volunteers for this weekend.
Because they're getting a high number of doses. Weekend,
but I do want to participate as time goes by. So the good news is, you know, listen, in Florida, we have a very vigorous program. We're fighting the battles right now. I think state by state reciprocity would be critical also to take the doctors out of the middle of the decision for people that are safely getting product up north when they come down to Florida in the medical program up there. So I think there are some logical bipartisan issues that really can be worked on. But when they're focusing on the 10% THC cap up in Tallahassee,
or trying to forbid something that the voters have voted on, also it's kind of.
So let's talk Delta 8.
Oh,
THC.
This will be interesting.
So I was, you know, having dinner in Venice the other evening, and right next to the restaurant was a smoke shop. So I walked in just to see what was going on, because, you know, I like to see what is happening in the CBD world, right? Things of that nature. And lo and behold, what I saw was very interesting. So you can buy THC, right? And you got to listen for the next 30 seconds, everybody. So don't stop listening now. You can buy THC now at a flea market, at a vape shop, okay? Believe it or not, even in a gas station, because what's going on is that because of the farm bill, the hemp bill, this, that, whatever, CBD has been available, right? And in whole flower form in the smoke shops. Now, theoretically, of course, that hemp product has to have less than 0.3% of THC. So you can grow a beautiful field of hemp for fiber or sales or fabric or whatever you want to use it for. But if that field of hemp has a 0.5% or a 1% of THC.
Can I ask who really checks that? Like, really, who does? Like, if you have that somewhere in a field, like, who's going to go around checking it? I'm just curious.
They pay people to do so, agricultural inspectors.
Okay, I'm just wondering. I'm like, how do they really go in the field?
But if the field is a 1%, you know, THC, they got to destroy it. They have to destroy it. Right? It's unbelievable. So what's going on is that hemp CBD product now is being sprayed with what's called Delta 8 THC. So what is Delta 8 THC? The cloud of smoke hanging over Woodstock, the intoxicant of your joint of cannabis when you bake a brownie, that converts the THCA acidic to THC, Delta 9 THC. That's the classic, right? Cloud of smoke, once again, hanging over Woodstock, jewel of the Jamaicans, despised by the prohibitionists, THC. Delta 8 THC is a CBD, right? In other words, another cannabinoid, one THC, all the others. CBD is very easy to convert into other cannabinoids. All you have to do is by a chemical process, knock a side chain off of CBD by processing, and then you have what's called Delta 8 oil, right? The Delta 8 oil can be sprayed onto a hemp product and then enhance the Delta 8 THC content of that product that they roll up into a joint now, that they roll up into a joint now or put into a cone, and they call it Bubba Kush, or they call it whatever they want to call it. And it's labeled literally as Delta 8, and you can see it, but then big letters THC. Oh, so it's deceptive in some ways. Deceptive. Now, does it get people quote unquote high? So Delta 8 does have some mild psychotropic effects. Don and I have done some little research on this. We're kind of trying to see what the experts are saying. No, not personal research.
I was going to say, what kind of research
I have no interest in using anything that has a sprayed on.
No,
product.
God, no, I would never. I don't. And that's very frightening, even for people. I'm like, oh, who would want that?
The point is Delta 8 is also available
That's a
in
good
the
idea.
dispensary world, in the MMTC world, but you know how that's created.
Yeah, but
you know
that
how
you
that's
know
processed.
it's monitored,
And there are
controlled.
great benefits for nausea, other intestinal conditions. So we do think that it does have some mental effects on people. There's been estimates from 1/10 perhaps of the psychotropic effects of THC, Delta 9, maybe, and I've heard other people say a 3 to 2, 3 quote unquote hits of Delta 9 to 2 of Delta 8. That I don't buy. That I've never seen that anywhere else, but I've seen it circulating on Facebook a little bit. And you've got to believe everything that's on Facebook.
Oh, of course we do.
But the point is, Delta 8 does have some mental effects. But to me, when you have it in that unregulated fashion, people are going to come into the smoke shop and they're going to purchase it without education, right? They're not really going to know. And for some people, I've heard that actually it may have slightly an enhanced effect over Delta 9. I don't know. We need research. There's other cannabinoids too, everybody. Remember, when you ingest an edible, that Delta 9 THC converts to 11 hydroxy THC, right? That lasts longer and has more of a body type effect. So each of those cannabinoids need their own understanding. But the whole Delta 8 shuck and jive on the legalization side, Ruta, is interesting.
Yeah, that is really, it is a shuck and jive.
You have to look at what's being regulated the doctor's office.
Well, this is what's funny. They try to regulate what's going on in the doctor's office, yet in retail sales, they're not really regulating that much. And it's like, who's looking at that side? I mean, the physicians are the physicians. You have medical licenses on the line. It's not like you're doing malpractice here. You're actually concerned for holding your medical license valid and under scrutiny.
So I did reach out to my expert, and I want to give him a big shout out, Dr. Gerdeman, Greg Gerdeman, of course. He was at Eckerd College for a number of years, endocannabinoologist extraordinaire, PhD in it. And I reached out to Greg about it because I said, how are they getting away with it? And I wanted to make sure that it was a sprayed on product because there's so much misunderstanding of it. Nobody is growing Delta 8 out of the ground. Okay. It doesn't work that way. There may be minute amounts of Delta 8, right, in out of the ground products, just like there are other minor cannabinoids. But this is a manufactured sprayed on product, and I wanted to get that from Greg. But the interesting thing about it is that because of the receptor crossovers and, so this is from Greg. Also, and I'm asking him about the testing. So how can't this be found out? So it's estimated that actually in a lot of those quote unquote joints that are sold in the smoke shops, that actually the THC content of those, the Delta 9 THC content is almost undoubtedly over the 0.3%.
Oh,
right?
Wow, interesting.
For sure it is. And in my opinion, quite frankly, it's so widespread right now, it's so hard for them to chase down. But there's also interesting things about the testing. So per Dr. Gerdeman, and I quote him, and also labs have some wiggle room to take advantage of. The Delta 9 and Delta 8 both appear, and this is when the science takes me over, both appear as multiple isomers when synthesized from CBD, as opposed to only one each made naturally from THC synthase enzymes. So instead of a nice sharp peak for Delta 9 on the testing, it is more spread out due to 4 slightly different versions. So my point is they're taking advantage of the science, of cannabis and the multiple cannabinoids. And really the testing, of course, is newer. It's a matter of kind of cat and mouse.
But I wonder,
it.
Who is wwhat are they? Okay, so if they're synthetically creating this, how? Like just from those isomers, or
it's a very simple chemical conversion. When you process the hemp product down to CBD, then all you need to do is put it. And I'm not a chemist, and we should probably get one on to explain it. But it's not a hard process, and it's not a dangerous process either.
I was going to say, but again, who regulates it to see how safe it is? Because as soon as you hear synthetic, for me, I'm like, I would never ingest anything synthetic like that into my body. I wouldn't want to.
For sure.
Natural is natural, synthetic is synthetic.
Right, right. And you talk mold and fungi and contaminants and heavy metals and all that type of stuff. But in general, and I want to be clear about this, the Delta 8 THC product is surely every bit as not dangerous, right, as Delta 9 or 11 hydroxy. They'll never stop your breathing, but absolutely, So it's interesting, but to me, that's one of the maddening things about those of us that are out there trying to do it
the right way,
with integrity and honesty and education. So be very careful of what is being presented to you. Listen, I have a lot of people that are in the, CBD world. A lot of good cannabis warriors got locked out of the system when they did that vertical, Ruta, and when they did that, a lot of people had to kind of bide their time and get into the CBD side of it. And there are some excellent purveyors of their products that do properly source, attempt to test the best they can, and not make the false health claims, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of false health claims that I think that are out there, because even people ask me on a regular basis. I get so many questions about CBD, a lot.
Everybody, don't buy a CBD infused pillow, please. Okay. Or pillow guy, by the way.
Guy.
Yeah, pillow guy. He'll probably come out with that one.
And they'll all buy it.
But no, there is, hemp vana, for example, I think is the most widely seen one, on morning TV these days. And you got to read your labels. Anything that has hemp seed oil, literally by definition, can't have CBD in it because there's no CBD in hemp seeds, right? So you also want to make sure that when you're utilizing a CBD and other cannabinoid product that you try to get a multi-spectrum. Oh, that was another thing that was on the on that Delta 8 thing the other day, right, Don? Multi-spectrum.
Full spectrum. It was full. Organic full spectrum.
Organic full spectrum.
If it's synthesized, how can it be?
How can it be organic? Thank you. That's what I want to know.
And on the label, and on the label, it's interesting. In the small print, it actually says greater than 0.3% THC, and they can get away with that because once again, it's Delta 8 THC. So you have to read your labels, you have to know what's going on. But the next time, and listen, maybe we'll be going to flea markets and other such things soon again and whatever. But listen, you're going to see these big vertical banners with THC now available. Let me tell you also, and listen, I respect everybody for doing what they do out in the medical cannabis field as well. There are clinics that are selling Delta 8 THC in their clinic environment, right? As well as their own white labeled CBD products, which we've never done. And once again, not to throw stones at anybody for their business model, but be very careful, everybody, to the extent of the products that you buy. And my reason for never having that white labeled product is that I respect the dispensaries, the MMTCs, to do what they do best, which is produce products and test them and label them. And
also for us to do what we do best, which is education. So we don't need to become salespeople, and necessarily we're there to educate patients on the medical side, and that's what we do best. So.
And just getting back to Sarasota County. So when will be the time, Ruta, do you think that we'll be able to voice the lunacy and the complete idiocy to whatever panel or body?
It's probably coming up already in 2022. Rumors are already that there's a lot of people who I know are running, and the ones that are going to be changing.
And this is a county commission, because explain how it kind of rolls in Sarasota. So who makes the decision?
So what happens so you obviously have the feds, then you have the state level, then you have the county level, then you actually have the city level. So the county, what they do is they set the rules for the entire county, ranging from Longboat Key, the area, all the way down to Northport. And they have these things called home rules. So some of the home rules laws it allows flex with the county to actually supersede if they think something is better for their county, because you trust the commissioners to think that they're representing their people and they know their county better. It goes to what's called, in effect, a home rule. And the home rule is the county then, like Sarasota, will say, okay, well, the commissioners think that cannabis should not be recreational cannabis should not be allowed in Sarasota County based on what the commissioners in the county think. It's not maybe necessarily like a poll from the people who voted, because people who voted for recreational. However, the state can say, well, we're allowing recreational marijuana, and the county said, well, we already came in and we said we don't want it in our county. So it goes to what's called home ruling. And then what'll happen is, a lot of times you'll have people protest the home rule, and they're going to go to Tallahassee and they're going to fight, and they're going to say, look, Tallahassee and the state has said this law, the county saying this law, then there's either going to go to another vote or there's going to go to one of the courts, and then they're going to say, does home rule stick up or does home rule not stick up on this? So what our commissioners are doing now is sort of setting the pathway to block recreational cannabis in the county of Sarasota, thinking they're going to take home rule. And they think, and likeliness, they're friends with Governor DeSantis, and many of our commissioners are, like Christian Ziegler. It could go in the favor of home rule. And if DeSantis is still in office when this happens, DeSantis can say, you know what, guys, it's a state ruling, but I'm going to go to county level. And if the county doesn't want it, the county doesn't have to do it. So so again, people who vote, 2022 is right around the corner, and people are going to, it is this November, we're going to start filing for who's running already. So the filing's coming up for who's going to run against these guys. Please make sure you're going to vote for people in your best interest, because these county commissioners, for those of us and those out there that want recreational or just want cannabis use in a little bit easier form, our county commissioners may be blocking that. So pay attention.
Yeah, it's incredible how very few people can make a decision that would have,
5 people,
affect
literally
so many
5 people will affect an entire county. And
listen, I invite, the commissioners, of course, to come on over to Compassionate Cannabis Clinic and visit. No, I'm teasing you, Ruta, because you know them all, and we do. We're open door. We're proudly open door, and we would love to, really show everybody. It's one of the most interesting things that happens in the clinic, and I know we're time done. The bottom line is it's so enjoyable when we have our patients that have never utilized cannabis come back for their repeat visits, and a part of the conversation is like, what was the big hullabaloo about in the beginning? Anyway?
And some patients are really apprehensive, and even our county commissioners, they're supposedly business oriented, right? That's their mantra, especially for the ones who are sitting there. You're supposed to represent not only the people who live in the county, you also represent the businesses. Well, medical cannabis is here, and you guys aren't coming out. We do invite you. I invite, Commissioner Hines, Commissioner Dieter, Commissioner Ziegler, all of you guys come on out. I think you guys should have a whole team luncheon out here and meet all of us.
That would be great.
It would be nice.
And I think just even seeing what cannabis looks like in this day and age,
it is.
very comforting to them.
I think they need to see it. I think they really do not have a clear understanding. And again, if you're representing,
and wouldn't you rather have people out there educating about all substances appropriately and
whether you use it or don't use it, but at least have the education and feel comfortable.
Well, people are going to use it.
They are using it.
So the point is, let's make sure they're using it in the safe and most appropriate manner that they can.
And again, I think it's a little bit, I don't know, I want to say naively ignorant of the commissioners, but they need to look at it, and they need to look at it. It's 2021. They shouldn't be prohibitionists. The people in this community voted overwhelmingly for marijuana rights here. And so here again, 5 people are making it on a personal level. Well, you're not representing me, and you're not representing the majority of voters in Sarasota
County. So come on out
County.
and visit.
So come visit. That's it. It's an open invitation. And I even said to them, in fact, I wrote to Commissioner Ziegler, and I actually said to him, I'm like, look, this isn't going to be a political attack, because he and I are obviously political foes and we ran against each other. But on a personal level, I told him, I'm like, Chris, this isn't going to be
it's the green room.
I told him, I'm like, there's a green screen behind us. And I said, it's the green room. I said, we won't go political. I'm not going to attack you. There's no personal.
And this affects
it's
us
not political.
Every day. We talk national, we talk Moorhead,
yeah.
we talk Tallahassee. This is our home.
This is our home.
So
it is.
Come on in, guys.
And I think, and that's the other thing.
Here.
I think that's a really good point, because people forget that the commissioners are home, and they are the ones who make the home rules for Sarasota County. They are the ones who impact us every day. They are the ones who say, I'm not going to allow any more dispensaries in Sarasota County.
I think they'd be shocked. I think they'd be shocked in a couple of days of watching who comes into the clinic. And,
I think they would be.
And who their views are affecting.
Yes, because when it's the grandmothers and the grandfathers and it's the attorneys in town, and we obviously for HIPAA they won't know that, but still they need to see the spectrum of people that come in for medical marijuana. I think they'd be very surprised. And I think some of them even know people who do use medical marijuana. I think they can't be that ignorant or, unaware. I shouldn't say ignorant, but just unaware of some of their friends who probably use medical cannabis. And again, just come on in, and the door's welcome. And we'll give a shout out to them. I'll reach out to them again one more time. Maybe we can get them all in and
for sure, before the discussion really ensues, let's make sure the education is given.
Down,
so
before
we don't
they
have
actually make a decision.
Right. let's make.
And if there's a public
decisions.
hearing, if there is, which there should be a public hearing, except now with COVID, it's a little difficult. Normally the hearings, when they do a vote on this, they allow the public to come and voice their opinions on the subject. But I think should that occur, I think all the physician and the medical cannabis practices need to unite and come as a united front in front of the commission.
And we do. We have a strong Sarasota contingent of
and we need to make sure, and the dispensaries need to come out.
Right.
Everybody needs to come out in support of this.
What can those who advocate for it do to help?
Oh,
it's a shame. That's what we just.
Okay, there was a comment from someone saying, "What can we do on our side to advocate for this?" Write to your commissioners, write to your state legislators, write to everybody. I think if there's crickets, they don't move. The sad story is those with, the loudest voices get heard, and the ones who complain the most get heard. And it's true. And even for the commissioners, if overwhelmingly a lot of people start saying, you know what, we're hearing that you guys might want to home rule this, I'm against it. I'm a voter. My friends vote, my family votes. You're going to lose all these votes. It comes down to voting. And so, make your voices heard. I think that's probably, just pick up the phone, write a letter, write a text, write an email. The county commissioners, if you go onto Sarasota County's website, all the commissioners' information's there, and they have their emails, everything's there. Please write to them and just say, look, we know that you guys this is an issue that's coming up and you want to sort of exempt Sarasota County, and just say I'm opposed to it.
And pay attention. And pay attention as the hearings come up.
Absolutely.
And look forward to seeing everybody out there supporting it.
And even for us, I think, it will keep everybody updated too. If we hear when this meeting should occur or when it's going to be slated to be on the county agenda, we'll make sure we announce it. And please, show your support even when it's announced. It's
I'm glad we got around to talking Sarasota County.
No, because the county it's home, and it's critical because people just don't realize the power of the county. Because, like I said, the state of Florida gives a lot of room for home rule.
It was a national story, actually. I had people from around the country reaching out and said, "You live in Sarasota County, don't you?"
Don't
I said, "Yeah, I do."
And they want to sort of preempt the feds.
So we're here, guys. We're here to help you. Just let us help.
And thank you for that comment, and thank you for your concern of actually listening and asking how to help out. So thank you guys all for listening and really caring about that. That's great.
We will see you next
Thursday. See you next Thursday on the Green Room. Have a great weekend, everybody.